Now, earlier I spoke with Rabbi Leo Dee about today's IDF operation in Nablus that ended the hunt for the terrorists who killed his wife Lucy and daughters Rena and Maya as they traveled just ahead of him on the Jordan Valley Road a month ago. Here's what Rabbi Dee had to say about his reactions and how he hopes the world will react. Rabbi Leo Dee, thank you for joining us on I-24 News. Thank you. Let me just start by asking your reaction on hearing the news that the IDF had caught and neutralized the terrorists responsible for the deaths of your wife and two daughters.
I heard this morning from a member of the Shabak who called me on my phone as I was walking on my morning walk with a friend. And I have to say there is a great element of comfort knowing that these men have been eliminated and that the world can sleep a little bit easier tonight. People in New York, in London, in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, there are three less violent murderers funded by Iran out on the streets. And that's a tremendous comfort to know.
Right. Now, you said had they been caught alive, you would have liked to have had the opportunity to speak to them, and that even now you would like the opportunity to speak to their families, their parents. What would you have said to them? What would you say, for example, to the parents of these terrorists?
In fact, all my kids have agreed that they would also like to be present, and the four of us would like to sit in front of the parents of these terrorists, or their brothers, or their sisters, or their uncles, or their aunts, and ask them two questions. And one is, what did they expect to achieve out of this particular attack? And the second question is, what is their vision of a better humanity, of a better world? And what are they trying to achieve? And I think the answers to those questions would be very illuminating on live television to a broad audience across the world.
Right. Well, let me ask you what you would say to the broader audience across the world today, not just to the Israeli audience, but to the international audience about the events of today.
I mean, I don't know if people have seen what I've been saying, but I do believe it's really 1%, I don't know the exact number, of the Palestinian population that are these violent terrorists. And across the Middle East, it's probably around 1%, maybe larger than that, maybe smaller. I actually believe that there's an activity that all of us could participate in that could change the situation. And this is really from conversations with my Palestinian friends who live in fear and trepidation of the Palestinian regime, mostly their brethren who keep them in fear with guns. So they can't actually have any freedom of speech, any freedom of religion, no freedom whatsoever. And this whole tragedy happened to us on Pesach, Passover. And as you know, that's the time when God took us from slavery to freedom. And I actually believe that there's a message here, because as Jews, we have a duty to be servants to God, to basically to try and be like God. And if God took us from slavery to freedom, then perhaps there's a task here for us to take people from slavery to freedom. And you don't have to look very far in the Middle East to see slaves, because there are about 100 million of them to 200 million of them who are slaves in this region. They are slaves to the Iranian regime, they're slaves to the Syrian regime, they're slaves to the Gazan regime and to the Palestinian Authority regime. And these people live in fear. They can't express themselves. My Palestinian friends have said if they could get rid of that 1%, there would be peace immediately with Israel. But what they're scared of is actually standing forward, marching in the streets, because they'll get shot and their families would be murdered. But I believe that if the people of the free world, so those people in Israel, Jews all over the world, Christians all over the world, maybe Muslims as well in countries around the world, could march in the streets with the flags of free countries such as Israel, America, UK, Europe, with a slogan that says, free the people of Iran, free the people of Syria, free the people of Gaza, free the people of the Palestinian Authority. I actually believe that we could make a big difference, because we would give them strength. And then instead of 1,000 people marching in the Palestinian areas here or in Iran and all getting shot, there could be 1 million of them, in which case there being too many to be shot. And they could actually have some strength and force to bring down their evil regimes. I don't believe it would take a lot. It would take 1 million people around the world to be marching. Right. And this is what we did. If you think about 30 years ago, against apartheid, we marched against black slavery. Right. We marched against for Soviet Jews. We haven't marched for about 30 years in the world. And maybe this whole tragedy is a sign from God saying, now's the time to march. You've got 100, 200 million slaves in your region, and nobody cares about them. Nobody marches. Maybe we should all be marching.
All right. Very briefly, Rabbi, we just saw the pictures of the first of the heart transplant that was used utilizing the donated organ of your late wife. Interesting disposition. Just your reaction to that quickly.
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, the heart went to a lady called Lital, but when she took me aside later, she told me her name was actually Rena. Lital, which I thought was quite emotional. And the mother of the boy who received the liver told me her name was Maya. So we had a Maya and we had Irina in the room, and they were Lucy's organs. And I found, and the kids found that tremendously meaningful. And maybe there was a sign coming from somewhere on that day, 2 days ago.
All right, certainly an interesting juxtaposition with today's events. Rabbi Leo Dee, thank you so much for joining us again on I-24 News.